Good afternoon, everyone. Get my keyboard out of the way here. How is everyone doing today? It is a very rainy, dark day here. I had to turn on the lights, and I'm trying to turn on my ring lights, and I looked right at it, so I'm seeing rings at the moment, so that's where I'm at. That's where it's at right now. I see Laura. Laura, go ahead and hit the little camera button next to the comment thing and request to join, and we'll scoot you right on. Everybody, my name is Jen Sankey from the Cartomancer, and today we have Laura Tempest Zakroff coming on, and I'm going to add her on right this second. So one thing with the rain is it messes with my internet, so we have to pray to all of the gods, all of them, that it's gonna work. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I was trying to adjust my lights, and I was staring straight at it when I turned it on. So everything's just rings right now.
It's like Instagram never has the same sort of light effects as your regular camera. You're like, oh, this looks fine. And then Instagram's like, no.
Yeah, exactly. And you go on, and especially when you go on live or something like this, and then all of a sudden you're really close, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what I was going for.
Yeah, a little further back, a little further back.
Exactly. I'm I'm just gonna go back here now. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to chat with you.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. So let me just introduce you quick, everybody. We have now. First, let me say, how do you say your last name? Am I saying it wrong? I'm saying Zakroff. Is it wrong?
Zakroff.
Zakroff. Okay. All right. I know. I have this talent. It's my magical power to chop people's names and just butcher them all. So I knew I was getting it wrong, but I'm you know what? It's Laura. We know it's Laura. It's fine.
Words are hard, and I'm, being originally from the Philly, Jersey area, A's are really hard, and so it's and then you say it, I've got it, and
right.
It comes out of your mouth something else
all the time. No, it is exactly. Or you say a word in your head a certain way, and then it's really not the right way, but then you go and say it in real life, and you're like, crap, that's not how you're supposed to say it. But in my head, that's how I say it. So it is. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
all the time. I had a friend who wrote me the other day, and he's like, we should do a Lenormand deck. And I'm like, 9 times out of 10, I cannot get that word out of my head in the correct order. So
right.
It's terrible.
I do the same thing. I do it because some people are Lenormand, some are Lenormand, and then I've had people correct me when I say it. I'm like, oh crap, I don't know. The little cards. That's what we're talking about.
I want to say Lenormand, and people are like, no.
Oh my god. See, I like that. I'd probably wind up saying something like that. I agree with it. But anyway, yes. Anyway, we have Laura here. Laura Zakroff. Tempest Zakroff, and she is an author, an artist, a dancer. You are a little bit of everything, and I'm also actually really excited. I just found out that you're going to be vending at Witch City in July. I'm on the board there, and I'm looking, I'm like, that's Laura. So I'm very excited about that.
I'm very excited to be attending, because I'm just attending, minus the the little market. I'm like, okay, a little market I can do, but to not go to an event and work the whole time, yay!
I know, and then I get to meet you in person too, so that's super exciting. I love it. Yes. No, I'm telling you though, that night market is gonna be busy. We already sold out 130 tickets to the early bird people, and that's just to get in an hour early. So it's crazy. And we're going to have to close vendors too, because we have so many people that just keep emailing, and we're like, sorry, closed. Bye. Can't do it. Next year, August, we're going to reopen it. But I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited for it. And like you said, just to be in person, anything in person, I'm just yay.
Yeah, and especially for me, to get more local, because of course, as soon as I moved back to the East Coast, we had a pandemic. So it's been so I haven't really been able to get out and meet folks and see, just enjoy being in New England.
Yes, I'm in upstate New York, so I hear you. I totally get it. And I'm about 3 hours away from Salem, so not too far.
Not bad at all, especially for upstate New York.
Yes, exactly. It's not too far, so it's good. So today, I wanted to talk about your new book. Yay! So I have it here, and I mean, which just came out with like I got all sorts of things going on in there. It's a great book, and you know, I like to say like my like real person job. I was a nurse. And so for me too, I don't know, it just really spoke to me how you were able to just combine like the actual physical with the magical. So that was really interesting. So how did you come about for the idea for this book?
Well, one of the things that really started early in my practice was realizing that the body was like the most powerful tool that you have. So even like back in college, we're starting to incorporate dance into our rituals and going, wow, this is really powerful. This feels more ecstatic and in the moment and connecting with the environment and each other and all of this, just by having music and movement and just being more present in our bodies. And as I really studied dance even more, it was transformative to really embody that, not just as a medium in certain ways or being a priestess or any of that, but just like be present in your body. And I feel like we have such a culture of attacking the body or not being present in the body, or glorifying the spirit or the head, and it's like, but the whole thing, we're all here,
right. No, I know everybody ignores the root chakra. Meanwhile, that's like the place that probably needs the most work out of all of our chakras, but it's true, because it's not like the fun stuff, it's all like the the spiritual and all that. So I love that. And with you being a dancer too, that makes so much sense, because you express all of that through your dance as well. Now, have you been dancing your whole life, or did you start like when you were a little bit older?
I didn't start until college, actually. So in my late teens, early 20s, it's kind of funny, is early on, I'm of the age where Mary Lou Retton was very big. So like gymnastics and all that. So like at 3, 4 years old, I'm like, I want to be a gymnast. And, took a gymnast class, and the instructors are like, your child is not coordinated enough for this. Perhaps art,
Right.
art. So thanks for that. So I didn't really develop that kind of coordination and interest in dance until much later in life, but it quickly became of like, it's a different thing, when you're being focused on your body and music, and becomes a different world, especially with the folkloric dances, Middle Eastern, the Indian classical dances, Mediterranean dances. They're all about enjoying the body, like all dance. Not all dance, almost all dance is about enjoying the body, at least how the roots of these dances developed, right? And being there. So that's became like developing as a witch and a dancer almost at the same time.
Oh, that's cool. And now, so what kind of dance do you focus on? Is it like more the folklore type dancing, like all of that? And well, I think you do belly dancing. Yeah, that.
It's a huge umbrella. So at this point, I call what I do mythic dance, because I'm pulling from all the different things I've studied, primarily a lot of North African, Italian, and Turkish dances. But it's like what I'm also inspired by. So people are like, whoa, where did that move come from? I'm like, well, this is, when I'm working with a particular deity or spirit, this is what I felt like was called to do. But I built that movement vocabulary from all these dances I've studied for all these years, rather in depth, right? So it becomes intuitive, or kind of muscle memory in there too. But it's like, it's not one particular thing. And I am, a modern person living where I am now, a conglomerate of different, many different backgrounds. So.
Yes, no. I like that term too, like a mythic dance. Like it's just from you, and I think that's really awesome too. I love that. Now I know that you really post a lot on your YouTube, right? With the dancing, and just, you have a lot of videos on there, and you did a lot during the pandemic too, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, I started doing the ritual workout, and it actually came as I was working on this book. I had some of my Patreon folks did test readings for the book, and they're like, I really love this, but I feel like if I had a video to see how this is done, it would be helpful. I'm like, I totally get that, because it's hard to read about movement or dance in a book, right? We do, our brains are all different, but most of us do learn better by seeing it.
Yeah, I'm a visual.
Trying to do it. So I was like, well, what if I start offering that, as a free resource for folks? And it was also for me to get more into moving again, right? Because we're not touring, we're not doing workshops, not going all around, and like, I need to move my body.
Yes. Very much so. No, that's awesome. And I think, again, too, it's just bringing that mindfulness back to your body, which, really is just, I think, what a lot of this book is about. Because, and it is so lost. And I think we're just also so hard on ourselves, and we're also so hard on our body because, again, we watch things online and we see them do this, we see this one do that. And we're like, we're going to do it. And it doesn't go quite as planned. And then we're just like, oh, forget it. I'm not going to do it. Instead of just embracing what you did do, a lot of times we're just like, forget it. So I love that, just that incorporation of all of it as well. Now, was there anything like in particular in the book that was really hard for you to write, or like really took some like time for you to work through, or did it all just kind of really flow for you?
The whole concept of relating the different processes to the body, once it came together, it was perfect. I have, as a Gemini, I have a lot of voices going on in my head.
Oh, okay. You're a Gemini. Got it.
So when I'm thinking like, okay, how do we relate to practice, to the body, and to metaphor and symbolism? And, the part of me that studied heavily into science, high school and parts of college is like, well, all of the different systems, if we do that, like, all right, we're getting too complicated. Let's pare it down a bit.
Yes.
And because they're all interlinked. Like when I was in school, they're like, we have 9, 10, maybe 11 different systems of the body, the endocrine, the skeletal, the muscular. And now they're like, well, maybe there are 30.
Yeah, what? Check back next week.
Yeah, it's like it's you can't really separate them out because our bones are making our blood cells, like, and so like you can talk about the circulatory system, but you also need to talk about the skeletal system. Right. When those things. So I once I brought it down to the 5 systems, that was pretty easy. The other thing though is trying to make it as inclusive as possible, because I know a lot of people panic when they hear movement or dance, as you were saying, like, oh, it doesn't look good, right? But people don't, we often think like, oh, as adults especially, we're like, if we can't get it on the first try, it's not worth it. Like, no, how did we do this? How did we learn to walk in the first place?
Exactly.
How did you learn to cast a circle or read tarot, right? You had to do it through practice, and building up that familiarity to it. But I didn't want it to scare away anybody, because if you have a body, this book's for you. Yeah.
That's good. If you're just a black mass floating around, well, you got other problems anyway, so it's fine. Right. It's okay. Buy it for a friend. We have a question. Let me see what our question is. Which book are we talking about? We are talking about Anatomy of a Witch. That is the book we are talking about today. And Laura has all sorts of books. The other one I grabbed that I have right here too is Sigil Witchery, which I love this book. It's so awesome. And you include sigils also in Anatomy of a Witch as well. So I think that is really cool. I just want to get to my one page here just to show. Now, when you were going through and you were deciding, now, did you do each sigil for each system as you were going along, or did the sigils just kind of like appear and you went with that from that way?
As I was working on them, I was starting to get a visualization of what they would look like. But I knew once I finished everything, that's when it was really going to be defined of like which elements belong to which parts. Right. So as you can see in the book, then each one has its own, but then there's sort of the, like we call the Voltron sigil, all of them combined.
Right. Yes.
One
no, that one's epic.
The mega sigil in there, because you can work with them individually, and then you can use it to channel the whole body, and so it's about like what's always happening in the back of my head, but once it was time to put it out and be like, okay, now how much of this, now that I've fully understood what belongs to the witch's heart or the witch's lungs, is symbolically incorporated into the sigil.
Right. No, and I love that. And, for people who don't know what sigils are, could you just explain real quick what they are for them?
Sure. So sigils are any mark that has been drawn, generally by the human being, right? When we do this, or we dance them, or paint them, draw them, etc., that is believed to have magical properties. That is the overarching of what a sigil is. It is a symbol that is believed to have magical properties created by human beings.
I love that. I love that. And here is an example too. This is the wise word sigil for anyone who doesn't have it. There's a sample of that, and like Laura was saying, there's one for each, and then there's like the master one. So if you want to see the master one, you have to buy the book. I'm not showing it to you. So there's that. But it's gorgeous. And I really the picture, I love, one thing too, I love how you measure everything in kittens. It's fantastic. Like every time I saw it, I was just like, kittens. That was fantastic. I love that. I love it. I love it. And you also talk a little bit about shadow work in here. And I think there's definitely a lot. And excuse me, I'm so stuffy. My allergies are just stupid right now. So that's why I sound like this. I'm sorry. A lot about shadow work, and, you touch on that, and can you, talk a little bit about that and how that works into this book?
Yeah, I think it's more near, especially the end.
It's towards the end.
Tapping into this, because I feel like shadow work has been a buzzword that gets thrown around. It's almost like I have a running joke about witchcraft. Like, just throw shadow in front or behind it, and it will suddenly be a thing, right? Book of shadows, shadow work. Like, do you
say
understand?
it on TikTok? It's real.
Yeah. And so it's like we're often using these words without understanding the origin of where they came from. Like, even with like Book of Shadows came from another manuscript that Joe Gardner was interested in that, came from Asia. Like, it was like,
yes, exactly
what I think it is. And so, a psychology term going into suddenly becoming everything that is dark or wrong about ourselves. It's like, what is, as a goth.
Yes.
As a certified goth,
I got you somewhere, right? I got you.
That darkness is also beauty. Darkness is something to be explored. So sometimes light is something that can hurt and harm as well. So having a more full understanding of light and shadow, and working with these scary parts of ourselves. And sometimes the scary parts of the selves are the stuff that's right on the surface too.
True.
That you're like, oh, I just take it for granted. That's fine. You're like, but have you thought about it?
Yes. Have you integrated that idea? Yep. See, it's not working. No, it is so true. And I think it's a big part of, even when you're going through, working with your physical body, there are things that are going to come up. And there are, there's going to be, you may be working on, your bones, and maybe there's a reason why it's a little bit harder for you. And, you have a lot of exercises in here, and you have, different spell work and stuff like that to kind of dive in a little deeper. And I love that you do it in a way that makes it so it's not scary. Like, okay, well, you're going to look into this, and you got to just see what comes up and go take it from there. It isn't like, okay, you're going to do this. It's going to be deep, dark, and scary, and you're never coming out, and you're never going to be the same, and because there are things out there that do say that, and especially on the internet, I think it's one of those things, like, what, this is also, it's a good idea to go off the internet, read a book, and see where it takes you to also form your own ideas. And I love that too. With the book, you encourage people to really, like, no, this is how you're feeling, and that's okay. And how can you make that magical? How can you bring that practice into your everyday? So what are some of your favorite, like, everyday practices that you do to keep yourself just mindful of your body, your spirit, like everything that's connected?
Usually one of the first things that happens in the day is,
yes,
this is the second cup though, so nobody panic.
No, it's totally fine. You saw me, I've been sipping all along, and the best thing for me is I bought like this Mr. Coffee like cup warmer. It was like $10 on Amazon, and it like keeps the cup warm, and it's it's really fantastic. I just need to share that.
Well, I will have to check that out because
Yes.
I'm habitual, especially with a large mug. It's like, oh, I have to go back downstairs and microwave it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. See, that's a me. I have to go upstairs, and it keeps it warm, and it's just fantastic, and it's a wonderful addition to your desk. I just have to tell you that. So there's that.
Keep your beverage, your morning beverage. So like people are like, well, how is that a daily ritual? Is, it's like when people hear the term daily ritual, they're like, oh, it has to be something complicated. It's going to be, do a full spread and cast a circle and call upon the deities or make, offerings at the ancestor.
Yeah.
Which you could do all of those
No,
things.
absolutely. But it makes me want to go back to bed when I think of all those things.
Yeah, it should be something that is feeling natural and is already integrated into your everyday practice. So you have to get up. You hopefully are washing yourself at some point in the day, right?
You won't encourage that.
Yeah, hopefully. Feeding yourself, going outside and just kind of so that's the thing. So starting off with that morning beverage is that connecting, feeling the warmth, feel it, go down into the system and just appreciate it. Like just appreciate those small little moments. And what maybe went into the tea, what did I select for this particular day? It's a little bit of magic in there. And I always check outside. So many people just go about their day and never really consider what's the weather like. What are the trees like? I am watching. There is a cherry tree in my neighbor's yard that I have been watching now really closely for last month, and like it's almost there.
Oh yay! I know. Oh my gosh, I do the same thing. I live on top of a mountain, so I have like when I look out my window, it's like the tops of the trees, and they're like right there. I'm like, come on, do it. I totally do the same thing. Totally.
Yeah, it's those little details that help us feel connected. It's like when you're observing what's happening to the world around you and to your own body, that is magic in itself. It's not, here's a list of things and all the ingredients you have to have, which can be totally fine, right? But it's those, you start here and you're already on. It's so much easier to do any of those other processes if you want to.
Yes, it is. And it's all about what resonates with you too. If you're somebody and you wake up and you need a big cold glass of water, then that's fine. Then use that, right? Like it's really, and I always, I like to encourage people to try a whole bunch of different things, see what works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. And it doesn't make it wrong. Because like, even you mentioned before, like with the dancing, like somebody tries it once and they're like, okay, this doesn't work. I'm not going to even bother. Then no, you need to like try it again or try it in a different way. Maybe you need different music. It's so important. And, I think too, by even going through your book, you could even use it like a workbook in a way, grab an extra, like a notepad and just slowly, go through it. And then I think at the end, it's like you kind of will have this roadmap of your own body really and what resonates and what doesn't. And I think that's a really great way to use the book too.
Exactly. And it's also not gonna be like you read it in a weekend and you've got it all right. It's definitely, it's a bit of a slow burn. In that, because
it's gotta like seep in as you go along,
symbolism is like that. Like the reason why there's so much symbolism in there is because symbols are shorthand, right, for much larger concepts. So that's why I relate to, so the witch's heart connects to ritual, but your heart moves your body. So like connecting to the physical heartbeat, what gets you going, but also how do you have that ritual for every day or the big moments that get you excited or, how do you slow down? How do you speed up? You're not going to solve that in just one read. It's going to be think about it, experience it, go outside, taste the air, see what happens over the course of a week or a month or a year, and create that ritual or pattern. Because that's what we are ritual beings. We love, to have things in order. Think about, if your day starts off wrong. Right.
Yeah, no, that's it. And I feel like, I'm going to say, because I have 2 Geminis in my house. And I feel like that is such a thing for a Gemini too, because like, even like my husband and my son, like if it's just off, like something, then that's it. They're just pissed and that's it.
Yep. We have to change everything. We're going to start, go back to bed.
Yeah, go back to bed. Okay, now we can get up and start over again. It's all good. I love that. I love it. Yeah, no, and I think too, the visualization of things, these sigils or even making your own sigils and putting them in different places. You know, I always love to put like on the, you know, the steamy bathroom window, or, you know, or whatever, the mirror, like putting a sigil on there. I will do it when I have makeup. Like if I'm putting like foundation on, I'll start by like putting a sigil on or something like that. And it's so easy to incorporate these things in your day. And I feel like too, even like the sigils that you have for each, you know, each of the 5 systems, you can have them just on your phone as a screensaver, or you have something pop up as a reminder for you to do that, because like you said, it's like that shorthand, you know, and it's like, oh, I gotta work, you know, I gotta do something in regards to this, or maybe I just even just thinking about it, right? Like even giving time to think about it is a great way to work with them as well. So you know, what, like when did you, I know you mentioned too about that you started, you know, learning about all things witchy in college, and well, late high school, college. How did that start for you? Like what, how did you get into all of these witchy things?
It's like, oh wait, how do we have 3 hours?
Right, I know it's a complicated question, but give us the abridged version.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. So I was always a weird kid, and I come from a mixed background, and particularly coming from my mother is Italian Roman Catholic, and my father is a Russian Slavic Balkan Jew. And so you have this kind of meeting of these 2 worlds I was very aware of as a young person. And just very young, I was already getting in trouble in the church because I'm like, I don't think this is how it works.
Right. Oh my gosh, I so relate to that. Totally.
And being the youngest child, my brothers are much older than me. I spent a lot of time in the backyard, and I had a little house that my parents built for me, like a little, not a tree house, but it was like it was a little Baba Yaga hut.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that. Yes.
So like, yeah, I'm collecting the sticks, I'm gathering moss, and making a moss garden, I'm gathering seeds and making potions and such. So that was always what I was interested in. And as I began to learn about other cultures and mythology from around the world, particularly Egyptian, Babylonian, indigenous to North American, like all these different parallel myths and stories, I was like, wow, if only this existed today.
Right.
And I found out, wait, it does. There are people who are keeping this actively awake. So when I found Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler, I think it was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
We love to hang out at the bookstore. That was like the big thing to do at that time was, you know, there's the cafe, the bookstore, and not get into trouble as a teenager in the South. And you're like, a lot of those titles in the 90s had really fantasy covers, though. I'm like, I don't know if I can take this seriously. Like, right.
It's so true too.
But like, you know, the only one that was a photograph was like Margot Adler's book, and like this is the gateway.
Wait a minute, this looks real. All right, I could look at this. I could do this. Yep. No, my first book was Spiral Dance. That was my first one, and it was like you said, it's that, you know, the internet wasn't a thing. This is a fact. It did happen, right? Yeah. And, you know, I lived on Long Island, and there really wasn't any bookstores even. So for me, it was the library, and there was like 3 books, like, you know, witchy books, and you had to get on the list because they were always out, you know, and it was so hard to even get them. So you know, that's awesome too, that you were able to even just hang out in a bookstore. I love that. I want to hang out in a bookstore. I'm gonna do that right now. Why aren't we in a bookstore right now? Damn it.
I think the culture, I'm pretty sure it was it could have been a Barnes and Noble or Borders. South Carolina at the time, but they had like a whole big central thing built among the Starbucks or whatever it was.
Yeah, like all the tables and all that in the middle. Right. Okay, that's awesome. I love that. So, you know, you get this book, all right, and then what happens? Like when you start reading it, like what happens?
Like there are people. Of course, there was a list of resources of organizations and magazines and such. So started, you know, writing out. You know, get the Azure Green catalog. And, you know, I knew I was going away to college, so I looked up groups that were in Rhode Island and kind of, you know, started that process. Found, you know, once I got to school, found a couple folks, but I ended up creating my own because I didn't quite find what I was looking for.
Right.
what I felt like I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, of course, as finding more books along the way, and just reading everything, get my hand into. And when I was at college, I met a dear friend of mine who ran Crescent magazine, which was a pagan
Oh, okay.
publication of art, philosophy, and belief.
Ooh, I like it.
Very beautiful. Yeah, as you expect somebody from RISD would create a beautiful magazine. And so from that, I really got involved in like the review process of all these books. So getting all the books from Llewellyn and Weiser and Phoenix Publishing and, from the UK, all these different things was like, now there's even more.
Yeah. You're like, you just dove in head first. You're like, I'm in. Here we go.
Give it to me. I want to
Yes,
all the books.
all the books. So when did you finally pick up a tarot deck?
I think it was 1996. So that was, so I also got married at 18, which I don't recommend to anyone.
10 out of 10, don't recommend. Okay, good.
Do not recommend.
Got that.
Do not. I learned a lot, but I don't know if I'd really recommend that learning process to everybody. But that was the first deck I got, and it was Legend of the Arthurian Tarot.
Oh yeah.
Which was long running. Apparently, it just got discontinued the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Do you still have it?
Awesome. I have my original deck, which maybe at a future time I'll pull it out, because it looks like hell. It went through 3,000 readings, so I did read professionally for years. And then I brought it to, I think it was PSG, one of your Pagan Spirit Gathering, and there was a flood.
Oh my gosh, so it survived a flood and everything?
Well,
it sort of did.
It's not quite the same, but one of my mentors, actually, he had also a copy of that, and when I've been reconnected with him, he's like, by the way, do you have any use for this? And I'm like, so I do.
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I would have been so excited. We have another, we have here, Crafting My Life is saying about the upcoming Anatomy of a Witch Oracle deck. There will be physical and movement tips as well to live divination as embodied practice as well. I think that's a question. I think they're asking about it. So why don't you just tell us about that a little bit?
So as I was working on the book, I was already envisioning an oracle in my mind, because from folks who are familiar with the Liminal Spirits Oracle, it's its own system unto itself. It's not really quite related to We the Liminal. People are like, well, it should connect it. I'm like, no,
no, it's not supposed to. That's it.
it's related, sort of like cousins, but they're not direct. So because that's all about connecting with spirits of place, spirits of animals.
Yes,
really
I love that.
Yeah, it's its own thing. And this is like, okay, well, what if we had an oracle that really connected to the body and was a useful tool, right? Because a lot to say about oracles, but it's like oracles tend to get a bad rap because they tend to be like sort of the dumpster of pretty cards with words on them.
Yes, your rainbow, sunshine, all that. Yes.
Yeah, your affirmation cards, which affirmation cards can be amazing. So I'm like not dissing that, but there's a lot of...
and if you love it, then that's absolutely okay. But it is what it is, and most people go to oracle decks when they want a little softer message.
Yeah, and the Liminal Spirits is not.
No, I have that deck. I love that. Oh, and your art is so beautiful in it. I just love it.
Thank you. So I don't know, until people actually start using this oracle, will be, if it's as big as an asshole as the other one.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I don't know, but I do. The artwork's a little bit different. So the Liminal Spirits was all acrylic paintings on wood. These are watercolor and ink, and I have the originals here.
Let's see.
If we can.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes.
So these, let's see, I think this is the one that's on the cover.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Which,
oh wow, that's beautiful.
And this one's also on the book here.
Aww, with the kitty.
With kitty. And so there are 48 of these.
Wow. Ooh, look at that. Yes.
So they're a little bit softer in some ways. They're more of my my drawn expression. As you can see, they're fairly small, about the same size as the cards. The cards will be the same size as the liminal spirits oracle.
Oh, okay.
And they are also separated into groups, but not quite the same way that the liminal spirits is. So I'm going to pull it up so that I have them in front of me.
Yes, absolutely.
Like what words? Okay, so we have the anatomy, which is the lungs, the heart, the bones, the serpent, the weaver. Did I get them all in there?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was 5. Yes.
That's good. I can count. We're good. The elements, so working with the elements and how they influence us, because all of the elements are present within our body, but sometimes we need to draw attention to water or earth or air or fire, right? That we need to have a little bit more of that attention so they can help you direct that, say, maybe consider more fire.
Right.
We have the senses, so touch, taste, smell, and thinking about those as well as beyond just the standard senses of digging more deep into that presence. Because sometimes it's a matter of taste, right? Like, are we savoring the moment? Are we truly being, looking at the atmosphere that can be corrupted by scent or memory? Like scent and memory are so deeply linked.
Yes. Yeah.
So
they really are.
It's amazing. It's one of our most primal senses in there. We have the body being, which are kind of the states of being. So we have like that dream card. Just the different like life experience and aging and rest, like those things that we need to pay attention to as important states. Right.
And we do ignore a lot, definitely. So like having a card that tells you to rest is probably good for all of us.
And everyone be like, bitch, you need to rest.
Right. Put your ass down.
We have our lunar and solar events, which are just, the moments of thinking about like, how does the moon influence us? So we have, the lunar cycles as well as the solstices and the equinoxes, as well as kind of a sense of festival celebration, which can be also important to planning for ritual, right? To think, okay, maybe if I'm going to plot a ritual, and I've got the dark moon card and I've got the rest or the dream card, right? And I've got protection. All right. So then this is a good way to put together a protective spell that allows me to rest, that preserves that has introspection. So it makes it very easy to like, what do I need to do?
Yeah. Here's your plan right there. Do it. Do it.
Do the thing. Do it. We also have the witchy work, which are like cleansing and banishing, healing, those type of things that we commonly associate with the most popular types of spellcraft. And then we have sort of artifacts, which are the things that relate back to the body that are also spellcraft, such as the eye, like the evil eye, or the nazar, hands, right? Hair, things that we do with the tying and binding of hair. So different things like that. So you have this range of these different groups that can really help you with not only divination, but spell crafting, ritual crafting, path working. And so you can pull one card, or you can do, there's several different kinds of spreads, but it doesn't get super complicated, but they're also not like, good job.
You're right. Go outside and breathe. You're all done. All set. No, and I do love that too, because like for people who are just beginning too, this will be so helpful for them, because a lot of times, we know we need something, but we don't know what we need. And we're like, what do we do? Okay, I got to do a ritual, but for what? So that'll be great to be able to just grab the deck and just throw some cards out and be like, okay, that's what I'm focusing on. Because regardless, you need to do something, and that, and it's also simple too. It's like keeping it simple, because I think, when we complicate things, that we wind up doing nothing. That happens so much. So that, and even with the book too, I love that it's like goes into it just enough, but not too much to where it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's happening? So it does. And I think that will be such a great reference too. I'm excited for that.
I think it's officially released in August, but it's been a long time. I finished the art a year ago, and I think we finished the text back in January, the final edits. It's at the printers. I think they're just running everything I'll advance because of distribution and shipping
Right.
issues. So maybe we'll get it sooner than August.
Yes, maybe. That would be wonderful. How exciting. Yay. Yay. So how many cards is in this deck?
There are 48 total.
Okay.
So it's
Cool.
just a little bit more than the Liminal Spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And Liminal Spirits had to be 42 because I am that kind of dork. I'm like, how many cards should it be? 42. It's the answer to all things. Now probably going to have to do a second Liminal Spirits of 42 more cards. People are like, well, what about? I'm like, you can only put so much in a deck. I can create it, right. Shuffle it at that point, right?
I know, right? And you're just like have this big chunk of like cards, and you're just like, okay, well,
you just throw them up. Whatever one hits you in the head. That's
exactly. Like just which one flies at your eyeball, that's the one you want to look at. So there you go. But it is. You know, I think, you know, where actually too, like, do you have a website? Like, where can everybody keep their, you know, eye on what's going on? Like, where's the best place for that?
So lauratempestzakroff.com is my main kind of author site. It will also get you to my shop, classes, events, and schedules. If you follow me here on Instagram, there's a link tree. And the link tree has the author site, my shop site, which where you can see the art, decks, books, all of that kind of stuff, my Patreon, all those good things, easy to find in the link tree. Up for a cover award, so that's like the first link right now. Yeah, and it's for in the Wicca, witchcraft, and magic category. So
fantastic. Yeah, so if you have not voted, make sure you do that as well. I know, that's so exciting. Like, I love that. And there's like so many people in it too, and I'm just like, there's so many.
it's terrible. Like this year, I'm like, I love all of these people.
Right.
I know at least, except for one person, I know everybody else in the category, and they're all great books. I'm like, why this?
I know.
And there's only going to be 3 awards, so like half of them have to go away. And,
I know. All right, let's see. So Crafting My Life has another question. Well, speaking of sneak peeks, any spoils about visual alchemy? Love you, Laura. Blessings and hugs from Italy.
Oh, thanks. Grazie. So, Visual Alchemy is the follow-up book, or sibling. Yes, it's a sibling, to Sigil Witchery, and so it's it's delving deeper into the sigil techniques that I talk about, coming out of my own techniques, but also it's deeper about the intersection of art and magic. So how does art as a practice, as a ritual, impact us? Because movement is important, but to me art is also just as important. And I think it's accessible to everybody. Everyone can make art.
Hello, did you hear that in the back?
I never say it, because every time I teach a sigil witchery class, somebody's like, I can't draw, I'm never gonna be able to do this. And like, you can do the thing. And then like a week later, they tag me on Instagram, like, look, I did the thing. I'm like, I know you can do the thing. You don't have to do like amazing art.
Right.
But like the human condition, and I talk about this in the history, because I'm if you've read Sigil Witchery, I have a little history section, because I like to tell you where things come from. This is also the Gemini problem.
That is so nice of you, though. Thank you. No, it's good. It's really, you know what it is, though? It's always great to know, too, like what that source is, where it came from in history, because I just feel like it gives you a deeper understanding and then helps you to create better.
Exactly. It's like, people just like, oh, I just want to just tell me how to do the thing. Like, no, you should know why.
Yes.
You know why, know where it comes from, and then you can do it better because you have the understanding of the why and the how. So when we look at, there's a little bit of exploration into going back into the first art, like the cave drawings and paintings that we see, and how art really helped develop the human mind. Like, we have the same brains that we had 250,000 years ago. The anatomy has not changed. Culture has changed. And the reasoning of how we made art and how it's affected us today is like, it's huge. It's how it's pushed civilization forward, and on top of other developmental things. Right. So, everybody should be able to access art. And I do know somebody's probably going to bitch about this when the book comes out. But I have a bit of a thing about like the art world. And, I've been involved in the art world, for a very long time.
Right.
And I like, it's bullshit. It's a lot of manufactured stuff where, art up here, art is up here. I'm like, no, art is your children making art. Art is you crafting and doing things with your friends. Art is expressing so much. And so it doesn't have to show up on a gallery wall or a museum in order for it to be important, especially to you and your process. So I talk a lot about that as well.
Right. No, and it is, and it's so important. And and I think that's why even just encouraging kids to do art and all of that too, because it's another way to express yourself. And, however it comes out is how it comes out. Just like if you're just turn on some music and start dancing, however you're dancing is how you're dancing, and it's fine. Yes. And I think, it's everybody's so stuck on being perfect, being Instagram perfect, and everything always just looks so great and wonderful. And it's like, it's not real life. And I think that the more of us, are talking about that and being like, you know what, if you just want to put music on and jump up and down and scribble on a board, that's fantastic. If after you're done and you feel good, mission accomplished, right?
It's done the thing. It should be accessible, and there's so many ways to do it. So really, I'd love to see more people do it. I think that's part of our culture. What's been missing, especially in the last several decades, is glorification of like, here, like, I'm not saying sports are bad, but like when the budget is cut in the art department, the theater department, the dance department for the football budget, we are seeing the result of that lack of depth of exploration into the arts, and seeing that people can emotionally and spiritually and mentally connect with the arts and how to use that as an outlet.
Right.
And it ties in perfectly with magic, because what is magic, right? It's our will, it's our influence, it's how we want to shape the world around us. And art comes from almost nothing, right? Like it comes out of our brains and we manifest it into the world, and we can continue to work on it. So like you can explore a subject, you could be like, Van Gogh and his sunflowers. Like how many times, or did, Monet paint the water lilies, or any of these artists, Frida Kahlo, how many self-portraits can you do? As many as you want.
Exactly. All of them.
It's always changing. There's something always new to be discovered, whether it's the light or the technique or how you're feeling in that day. That's a perfect opportunity to explore art in whatever medium you find it in.
Right. And, and also too, it's just that intention. Like, what is the intention that you are stepping into this art space? Like, what is it that you want from it? And, and that's just also kind of like that self-exploration as well. And that's a part of that being mindful, which is kind of been, is like the running theme of, I think witches in general, is that we just tend to be more mindful. We pay attention to those little things. And like you even said, like, I'm always big to like seeing how like the light comes through the window. How's it shining through the trees? Like, and just paying attention to that and just like giving it that space. And how does that make you feel? And for me, that's just always a very ethereal thing. Like when I see that, like just the light filtering out of other things, and and it is so important. And I think too, when we practice that too, we show others that like, oh, okay, they're doing it and it's not 100%. So maybe I can too, and, just like what you were talking about with the school, like with the sports and stuff, all of my kids are very artsy musicians. And I actually called, oh my gosh, probably a year or two ago, I called the high school because I was like pissed because there's no like guitar club. Like they play guitar and stuff. And there was nowhere for them to, like, there's no group for them to just go and jam with other kids. Like there was nothing. And we are a very sports driven school. Like I don't fit in here like at all, like at all. So, it's all the sports and then they have like the big theaters and the like the stadiums, rather. I'm saying theaters, I mean stadiums. But there was nowhere for them to play. Like just go play guitar, like just hang out. So it's always, I think it's just it's so true what you're saying. And I think we need to push more for that. We need to push more for the art, and even for adults too. Like get a group of adults together to do art, like do your sigil classes. That's art, right? Like it's just everybody needs to just start really making it a thing, For sure.
I will never diss those like paint and sip classes. I think you
Yes.
go out and you play with paint, even if you're copying a painting and it's social, like that's still something that is
Right.
getting your brain working in a different way, or painting
Right.
pottery, like anything. Uh, it's worth it, and it's so much healthier for you.
Right. No, it's creative. And again, that's connecting to you, and that connects you to your spirituality as well. Amber has a question. She says, one of my favorite books of yours is The Witch's Cauldron. What is one of your favorite bits from that book, and why?
uh, oh gosh, there's several different things in there that I was really sure that they were going to be like, no, we can't, you can't keep this in the book, because I had a lot of fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's kind of 2 points. One is blowing the gender binary out of the water, or out of the cauldron, if you will, because there's, especially out of the 90s and early O's, like the cauldron is the womb. I'm like, nope.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
not true.
Like,
and here are half a dozen myths dealing with kings and knights and these different stories, right, of father figures and such. And so we talk about those myths and the range of things, that it does not equate to, I don't think any particular tool has to have a gender.
Right.
So
exactly, because if you're using it for your own thing, it's whatever you are, and then that's it. It doesn't need to be specified.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get
So
as your digestive system as a cauldron, and the spiritual cauldrons that are within that too.
Yeah.
Like it's so, I think that's important, of getting that myth out of there. But I also, on the more fun side, I think it's in the spell section, is the pastamancy.
Yes. It is. It's fun. No, I love that. And and it's always a joke here too, because I do a live every Monday and just pull cards for the week for everybody here. And I always say I'm like the Mancy whore. Like, I use everything, like, to do all the Mancy's with. Like, I bought on one of my late night Facebook purchases, there was a David Bowie advent calendar, and I'm obsessed with David Bowie, obsessed. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to have this, right? So I get it. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to film every day. I'm going to do, open it. Well, I open it, and there's everything but David Bowie in this. Like, there's little, like, Superman figures. There was a pink piano. It was literally like whatever, I guess, all the, like, fast food places didn't want, that was just thrown into this thing. So no David Bowie whatsoever. But I used that. I put it all in my Labyrinth lunchbox, and I used it for divination one day. And that's what I did. So it is, it's definitely not, and I think too, really, I think even your theme throughout all your books and stuff is like, just being yourself and creating your own message and, like, owning it. And I love that, because I think, like I said, we go through in the internet and everybody's like, well, you should do this and you should do that. And you're just like, hell no, you do what you want, and I love that. It is awesome. You do beautiful work, and it's really, I always am very envious. Like, I write, I mean, obviously I'm not the artist as to, like, what, like, you can look at your stuff and know what it is. Me, really don't, but you can't tell what's happening. So we're going to
just okay.
Yes. And it's totally fine. So I'm just going to stick to the writing. But I think it's so awesome too that you could do both. Like, to me, that is, like, so cool when people can do both things. And it makes it just that much more special too, because, like, you are literally pouring yourself into the writing. You're pouring yourself into the art as well. And it just, like, supercharges it. I feel like it's super cool. Super cool.
It's bringing those together, but I actually find it kind of hard to, it's either work on writing,
yeah, right,
work on art, because it's almost like different parts of my brain for that. Sometimes like with the oracle, the image is the idea, right? The idea is there as I was, one idea to the next.
Right.
But art goes into another category, which is like, I'm right currently in the bowels of creating a tarot deck right now. So it's been a lot of like, oh, I think I'm ready. Nope, I'm going to sit there and think about this a little bit more, and get those parts together. Because I think a lot. So people think like, oh, you just came up with this. I'm like, no, I probably was thinking about this for 10 years before it showed up in a book.
Right. No, and I'm creating 2 decks right now, and it's one of those things like you have the idea for it and it sounds so great. Like this will happen to me and I write it down and I get it down and then I go back to it like a week later and look at it and I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't even know what's happening. Like, who wrote this? It wasn't me, because this makes no sense, and then but it's just a matter of like, it's just a part of that process and just forming it and making it like how how it will resonate with you the most, so that you can really, describe it and present it in a way that everyone else will resonate too.
Right.
So
that's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, so if you're creating it for yourself, it's all right if you're having that conversation. But for,
right.
Decks that go out into the world or books, right? You have to engage the audience. And that's why I think it's a really important, I don't want to spoon feed anybody anything. I want you to be able to be engaged, and I want you to think, and I want you to be able to explore, because witchcraft to me is an experimental and experiential path.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just like, no, just tell me what to do, I'm like,
no,
I can't.
Sorry.
I can't tell you what to do. I'm not you.
Well, and it's like one of those things, you tell them what to do, and then they're going to come back at you anyway and tell you it was wrong and it didn't work. So, there's a couple layers there. It's like when you're doing a tarot reading and someone's like, tell me what to do. And you're like, no, I'm going to give you some ideas and options, but I'm not telling you what to do because I don't want to be responsible for that. It's definitely. So can you just, we're actually almost to an hour already, which went really fast, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us like what you're up to? What are some of the projects that we talked about, a couple of your projects? What events are you going to be doing soon and all of that?
Let's see. So right now, so I'm in the development stage for the tarot deck. Hopefully we'll get a little more information on how that's going to be in a month or two. Mm-hmm. And I've got a secret book project that I can't talk about. Sorry, no tease, but it's super secret.
Awesome.
But events, since events are happening again, I'm doing the Beltane wildfire hunt event in Louisiana. I think I put the words in the wrong order there, but wildfire and Beltane are together. It's on my website. So that's the end of this month and beginning of May. Okay. Should be at Rites of Spring in Massachusetts, in Western Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And oh gosh, I'm going to be at INATS, which is the International New Age Trade Show, which is only relevant if you're a wholesaler or in that world. Mm-hmm. But I'll be in Colorado for a weekend, so maybe it'll be more fun. Maybe we'll do something else there.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of things coming up, like Mystic South in the middle of the summer. The Tarot, the Witch City Tarot. I'm excited. I'm just, as I said, I'm just going to be there to enjoy and soak it up, except for 7 hours.
No, I know. That's awesome. Like it's going to be fun. We have so many like awesome things happening, and it's going to be busy. That's for sure.
Ooh. And the Witches Night Out Market. Like,
yes.
Oh, that thing I'm producing.
Yeah.
So if you're local to New England, May 13th is our next event, where it's the Flower Moon Market. So it's a Friday the 13th. It's almost the full moon. It's the flower moon. So we have generally almost like 100 vendors and readers. Just a shopping market. I think we're going to have live music and some other activities and lectures and such. So that's if you are, it's in Rhode Island, so not far from anywhere else.
Yeah, I know. That's a good thing. Like Rhode Island, it's just like kind of there in the middle of everything, so you can kind of get everywhere. It's just like it's all there. I love it. No, that's awesome. And it looks like, actually, before we go, it looks like I have another question here. Let's see what this is. Can you tell us something about our Dia project and give us a hint on how to reclaim am I saying it wrong?
We are, I say Aradia.
Aradia, okay. See, I told you I can't say anything.
Some people say Aradia.
Okay.
But because I'm the East Coaster, Aradia. Aradia.
Well, that's how I would say it. So, okay. I'm like, how am I saying this?
So that project, that started basically 2016, 2017 after we had an election. And you can go to aradia.org, and it's about magical resistance. So we have the new Aradia from Revelor Press. And occasionally I do workshops. Actually, I'll be doing one of the We Are Radio workshops at the wildfire event in Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's just basically getting folks aware that be active in your local community. You know, change happens at the root level. We can bitch about what happens on the global scale or the country scale, but it's, you know, who are you voting in your local governments? How are you participating in the process? And what are you doing to take care of your community? So it's the mundane and the metaphysical coming together for that.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. And I think that's so important too. You know, it's just, I think, you know, and a lot of times too, I think, you know, people in the witchery community, we tend to just kind of like stay on our own side. Like we don't bother with any of that. But I think you know, it's so important to be involved and know who, you know, those local people that are around, like, what are they doing? Who do they like? What's happening here? So it's so important. I think that's a really important message. And so if people want to find out about that, they can go on your website and find all that out too, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so very much for hanging out with me. I'm excited to meet up with you in Salem.
Yes,
and you know, and also everybody, thank you for hanging out with us today. Definitely head to Laura's website and her link tree and get all the information and all the things. She's got a lot of great stuff coming this year. All right. You have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Bye, everybody. Bye.